Associate Director of Admissions for the Executive MBA program in Chicago. And then I'll let my colleague here, Tracy, introduce herself as well.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tracy Kulwicki. I am the Associate Director of Admissions for the EMBA program here in South Bend. I'm glad to be here today.
Wonderful. Thanks, Tracy. And very excited to introduce our colleague, Nick Farmer, who will be moving forward and presenting this webinar. So Nick, if you could introduce yourself and take over from here.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks very much. Both Tracy and Nora, glad to get a chance to join everyone today. So as they mentioned, my name is Nick Farmer. I've been involved with the programs here, especially the Executive MBA, for about 13 years here at Notre Dame, both in terms of working for the university and for our programs in development and in admissions. I've moved into more of a corporate partnerships role. And so I'm trying to bring the perspective that I've gained with our candidates, our students, our alumni, and the organizations to the presentation today. So the goal today is to share a little bit more with you about how to build your own individual case as you're having conversations with your leadership about taking on the journey and challenge of an executive MBA, what that'll mean for you and what that'll mean for the organization. So as we talk today, we're going to talk through some of the things you need to know, how you can start to build a background and start to pull together the necessary information and the questions you'll need to ask and answer as you're preparing to have those conversations. So as we go, I know we have our chat bar open, and we'll leave that chat bar open as we go. If there are specific questions, please go ahead and add those into the chat bar. If we can answer those along the way, makes sense to jump in and answer those along the way, we'll do that. But certainly we'll leave some time at the end of the conversation today to answer your more specific questions if you want to add those. So with that said, we'll go ahead and jump in. So this what to know is also sort of the agenda for our conversation today. So the things that you'll need to know as you're preparing to negotiate and build your case to pursue higher ed is to know the rules at your organization, know the benefits of the program and how that applies to you and the organization as well. Know your organization's goals, and we'll talk more about that as we go. And then finally, and probably most importantly, is to know your audience, the leadership, the people that you will be talking to about taking this on. All right, so first let's talk about the rules. You want to explore with your HR department or with your supervisor the policies that you have in place for professional development. So in some cases, our students that have come through the program know, and these are very well defined, they know what the professional development allowances are, what's encouraged, and specifically if there are tiers of support. So in some organizations, it's very straightforward. Everybody gets the same professional development budget or recommendations. In other organizations, particularly those organizations that are a bit larger, there may be tiers of support. So for someone who may have just started with the company or is in a more junior role, they may be eligible for a certain amount of support. Those that are at higher or senior roles or have more seniority of the organization may have more opportunity. So understanding where those might be, talking with your supervisor, talking with HR is going to be helpful. And then the last piece of that is what criteria need to be considered in order to take on a professional development opportunity like the Executive MBA or another graduate degree. Is it performance? Is it seniority? Those are the types of things you'll want to know before you go into those conversations. If those rules are not specified, and this does happen, we hear this on our end because some of the prospective students who come in don't know some of the answers. And when they ask their supervisor, they're not sure. If that's the case, this is an opportunity for you to go back to your supervisor and leadership with a plan, with a proposal. This shows a couple of different things. It shows the initiative, and it also shows the potential there for commitment. So you can talk about your professional development, your plans to grow within the company. It can then grow and be an example for others and their leadership opportunity down the road. So you can be the first case where they get a chance to invest in you and make the example for those to follow. So it can be a company leadership development opportunity then. And specifically around tuition, because that's usually one of the big concerns or questions, is you can then propose your own tuition remission plan. If it's not defined, you can actually lay that out. I talked with an alum about 3 weeks ago who they didn't have this defined for him. So he went into his leadership and spoke with them and said, well, we don't have a tuition remission plan, but we usually have a tuition or a professional development budget every year. We have so much of it. What he did is he went to leadership and said, I would like to go ahead and take my professional development budget for the next several years and put that toward the Executive MBA. So then I won't carry that over. In the next 4 to 5 years, I won't be doing any other professional development opportunities. I'd like to front load that. And so that I can take on this opportunity now, this will then carry over those years and be spread out over that time. So he got a chance to propose that. That was accepted. He was able to participate in the program, still with the organization, and has had the opportunity to advance to a senior role. All right. When I reached out to some of our students and asked, like, what advice would you share with candidates who are considering the program when they're having conversations with their leadership about jumping into a program like this for 22 months? So the first thing that came back from Chad, one of our 2021 graduates, was you need to demonstrate your value to the company. They have to see you as a valued contributor in order to really set the stage for what's next. If they see you as a valued and committed contributor, it's going to set you up to make a strong ask or make a great case for yourself to take that to the next level. So as he said, you have to be a consistent top performer. Putting education before your job performance isn't going to really get you very far. So putting that forward, if you've been a consistent top performer, that helps you build the case to say, I've been doing this, I've proven my value, and want to even do more and show more for the company. So let's jump now into the benefits. As you have probably started to investigate Executive MBA programs, Notre Dame's being one of those, you may have already gone to an event and talked with Tracy individually or Nora individually about how this program can help you. There are tons of benefits that this provides for you as you come in as a student and a candidate. So we know, for instance, it's going to give you greater tools. You're going to gain a greater business acumen, stronger business acumen, and those new skills will prepare you to take on what's next, increased responsibility, more advanced opportunities at your organization or elsewhere. It'll give you more vision. It'll sharpen that strategic focus that you have, and it prepares you to elevate your thinking. You're going from maybe a mid-level leadership role into something more senior. It'll help you making those bigger picture decisions, those decision-making abilities, and it's also going to help you increase in role and responsibility. Finally, leadership, that role and responsibility piece, that broader understanding is, and deeper specifically, of yourself, of leadership, the skills and what it takes to build high-performing teams and contribute more to your organization. It does prepare you for what's next at your organization. And again, or it could prepare you for what's next in your career, whether it's at this organization or elsewhere, it's going to prepare you. But the translation we need to focus on is to build your case for the organization, you have to translate those benefits into not just what benefits you, but what's going to benefit the organization. Put it in their terms. So let's go back to that table that I was just going through. So on the tools side, for you, it helps you to increase your business acumen. For the organization, that means you will bring greater innovation and increased contributions to your team. So they see that benefit. For the vision piece, that sharpened strategic focus helps you with your leadership team develop a more distinct and sustainable advantage for the organization in multiple ways. And then finally, on the leadership side, that broader understanding prepares you to take on more and to take on more senior leadership responsibility with your teams. It's ultimately going to make your organization stronger and more effective. So the more you can translate the benefits of the program into what the organization will get from your participation, the more or the stronger the case for your participation will be. And then one final point of this, because this is usually one of those things that can help start to pave the way. As you're looking at a graduate program, you're looking at, for the Notre Dame program specifically, 22 months. This is a program where the participation, you don't have to wait until the end for these tools and these skills to start to pay dividends. What it comes down to is the Executive MBA provides all of these benefits in real time. You don't wait 22 months. The company doesn't wait 22 months to start realizing these benefits. This happens every month. You're on campus Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Back in the office on Monday, you're able to share more specifically what you learned in one of your classes and help move the ball forward for the organization as you're going through the program. All right, so now we're going to shift into goals. This is going to be one area where you're going to be able to then tie what you are participating in the program more specifically to your company and what they're trying to accomplish. So for some organizations, sales is the main goal. We're trying to hit a certain amount of sales in order to try to increase earnings. This is going to be a key metric. Okay, you can tie that sales goal to what you're going to be learning in the program to maximize anything that you have in terms of meeting new clients, being able to research those, finding new opportunities where you can build sales. If you're looking for market share, same thing. Every different organization has different key goals that they may be focused on. So if it's in market share, you may be able to evaluate the market better. You may be able to find a differentiator that helps you in your particular field separate and differentiate and distinguish your organization and offerings from others. There can be a number of goals that you may want to focus on or that your company focuses on. The biggest thing is for you to identify those, whether it's, again, sales, market share, efficiency, job creation, sustainability, corporate responsibility. Again, this program in particular, the Notre Dame program, we do focus on values-based strategic leadership. So things like sustainability and corporate responsibility, if that aligns with your organization's values, that can be a key piece that you can tie into your proposal to leadership to say, not only does it provide the skills, but it also aligns with the values of the organization. So it's preparing you to take on those senior roles as a senior leader that's going to help define the culture of the organization as well. Innovation. All of these pieces are goals that you can latch your case to, but ultimately what you want to do is to position your participation in the program as a way to increase any or all of these goals. You can find different ways to focus on that with the curriculum, the culture, the network, the opportunities that you're going to gain during a program like this in order to increase and provide and drive success for the organization. All right, another piece of advice. This, again, from Chad. Align with champions. This is a specific conversation he referred to when he and I talked about this. He talked about the people at his organizations that had MBAs and how those conversations went, and those at the organization that did not have the MBA. So as he was trying to prepare for his leadership conversations, he was trying to find the people where they could provide a little more insight. And so he said those with MBAs, not surprisingly, see great value in having them. But those that don't find ways to downplay their relevance. So you want to seek out those in your organization, those in your professional field, your colleagues that you have, to tell them you have interest in pursuing an MBA. They'll be able to tell you more about the value that they gain from the program, how they balance the program and work and home life. They're going to be able to provide you valuable insight and advice, but specifically find them, ask them questions, and most importantly, ask for their support. Because especially if those individuals are within your organization, and particularly at higher levels, if you have a champion at a higher level in the organization that already has their MBA, they are proof that the MBA provides more value. They can speak to how they've been able to add more value to the organization, contribute more, and that will reflect on you. You can position them behind this person because they've already paved that trail. So find those champions and follow their lead. All right, let's talk now about the audience, because these are the folks that you're going to need to talk with and build your case with. These are the folks that are going to have questions. They're going to have motivation to either help or to try to find ways where this is going to help them. So knowing them is really important. know the key stakeholders. You have your own supervisor or supervisors. You may have more than one person, can be a solid line, dotted line report, but you have senior leadership 1 or 2 levels above your supervisor, because ultimately you're hoping to get to those senior levels. So you're trying to get buy-in up the chain so that there are no questions beyond one level. And then finally, if you're a leader already and you have your team, know that audience as well. This is something that's important as a leader, to be aware of the fact that your participation in a program like this is also going to impact the team. So there'll be things that you'll bring back that'll be helpful. They may have concerns about you participating in something like this and what it's going to mean for them. So know those stakeholders first and foremost, because then what you need to identify is, for each of them, find their motivators. Find the things that are going to inspire them to back you in participating, and leverage that specifically. But also make sure that you are aware of their concerns. Try to sort out where they may have potential questions or pinch points that you will need to address. If you can address both the motivators and the concerns, it's going to help pave that way. So what do some of the motivators look like? First, talent retention. Again, the organization wants to see, and especially in this job market where we've seen, titles like the Great Resignation or Great Attrition, where people are moving more and more frequently. Organizations finding and keeping talent is important, and it's been even more important in the last several years. So this is a way to position your participation in the program as a key investment. Investing in top performers, investing in you specifically, increases the chance that you will want to stay with the organization and grow with them, keep contributing to them. If they see opportunity, or if you see, other employees see the opportunity for growth with the organization and the willingness to invest in you, you're more likely to stay. And I think organizations are seeing this as well. They're trying to find ways to keep their best talent. So this is a key driver. Recognition. For the next level leader in your hierarchy at the organization, they want to know that they're growing their teams as well. This is part of their performance, is helping to grow their team and to help them contribute more. Everything that you contribute under their team is something that is also recognized as their contribution. So if you participate in this and you continue to grow, they get recognition as well. So your supervisor may then be more well known for developing their team, growing their team, adding success, contributing more to the organization, and developing these people, training them up into other roles that then can continue to contribute. That leader gets more recognition and is seen as more successful and more impactful as a leader as well. Succession planning at the organization. And I've had several conversations with organizations recently about when they nominate or try to find someone to come to a program like this, a lot of that comes down to the fact that they have someone who is ready to move up into another role, and they need to make sure that they have the right person trained to move into that role instead of going out and trying to hire. Because if you hire, it takes about a year before someone is really up to speed and contributing at the same level, versus being able to move someone up in the organization. They know the organization, they already know the mission, they're aligned, and they know the teams, they're a high performer already. If they can continue to advance people and move people into those roles internally, it helps build that bench strength within the organization so that they're ready for what's next. And this is the way you can position with your organization to say, I want to be ready for what's next, and help you to provide a path for others behind me as well. Finally, success. This is the ultimate motivator, I think, for the organization, is how is your participation in this program going to help drive success, tying it to those goals. So the skills you bring back every Monday after participating in class, and certainly after the whole 22-month experience, is going to help your organization be more successful and more impactful. It's going to then help your leaders be more successful, as they were the ones that made the wise strategic decision to support you in advancing your career, and adding that MBA to your resume helps the organization as well. All right, so we know those are some of the motivators, but there are also concerns. And being aware of these is just as important, if not more so. First, a participation in a program like this means that you will be out of the office for part of the time. This is a particular program. Our program is in person, and we see specific value in having people together in a cohort where they're able to know one another, learn from one another, and have a culture that they can build around and really lean into. So you will have time away from the office. It's going to be about 2 days a month for the Executive MBA here, Thursday, Friday out of the office. That's going to be a concern for some managers. They're going to wonder whether that work is going to fall back on them, and for your team, whether that may fall on their plate. So outline a coverage plan before you go to talk with your leadership about participating in the program. If you can come in with a plan and say, I anticipate being out these 2 days a month, I will spend this much more time on days that I am not in class to try to make sure that things are covered. I will also make sure that I outline specifically what tasks have to happen and be available at these specific times during a weekend if necessary to be able to check in. The other thing that you get a chance to do as part of that plan is to delegate. Find ways to help others around you grow at the same time you're growing and learning in the program. So if you can hand off a piece of responsibility or a project or make someone a co-lead on a project that you're running, it helps them to advance and grow as well. So it empowers them. So this is a leadership opportunity or a growth opportunity, professional development opportunity, not just for you, but for those around you as well. So the more you can plan ahead of time, sharing calendars and looking specifically at what the workload looks like, or even if it means this is an opportunity to hire for specific areas, that is also an opportunity for you to position that and show that you're aware that this is a potential concern, but you're able to offset that. Second piece, cost. We talked earlier just a bit about tuition and perhaps setting up your own tuition plan or finding out what you're eligible for in tuition remission. We know it's a significant investment. The organization is going to see that as well. So in terms of approaching the cost, it's like any other investment. Everything that an organization invests in, they invest in with the idea of ROI in mind. And so position it that way. Again, if you can tie this to goals specifically and say, if we want to increase sales, if we want to acquire 4 new organizations that are going to build our business, this is how the company is going, or this is how this program is going to help the company do that. So put the cost in terms of ROI, or make sure that those are considered as part of the conversation. Retention. This is probably the biggest thing that we as recruiters and those on the education side of this conversation hear from people, especially in this market environment right now, with people moving and leaving organizations and trying to find new opportunities at greater and greater rates more recently. This is still a concern of organizations, that they're going to invest in someone and what's going to happen. So this is an old adage, but I always like to share this. From the chief financial officer's perspective, they're looking at the bottom line and they see the cost of the investment. So question might be, what happens if we make an investment in this person and they decide to leave? The CEO, the wise CEO who's really thinking about the bigger picture would answer, what if we don't and they stay? So putting it in those terms, if you stay and don't increase your skills, you stay at the same level, right? You may grow more organically with the skills that you gain as you go, but this type of a program, the Executive MBA, is going to help you ramp up more than one level at a time as you go through the program. The learning is exponential, and the potential that you have to give back to the company is that as well. So if you don't get that investment, then you're only going to contribute in incremental levels as you grow. If they do make that investment, you can contribute so much more. All right, so I have a little more advice, this time from Kate. She's talking more specifically about the audience. She had 2 supervisors within the program, or when she was getting ready for the program. So her advice was, know the questions that your supervisors are going to ask and prepare the answers before you head in. So she had to prepare for two different people that had two different sets of goals and questions and concerns. One was more about time and one was more about retention. So she had a split appointment. She approached each one of her supervisors with a different set of talking points because she knew their responses were going to be different. Their questions were going to be different. The things that motivated them are different. So she knew what questions they would have, and she specifically had a plan for the conversation with each one. They were tailored. She didn't go in with one. She knew the audience and knew that she had to address time on one side and retention on the other. And so by doing that, she was able to build the best case possible for both and navigate her way and join us in the program. So how does that now translate into you building your case for participation in the Executive MBA? Going back again, first, know the policies, know your rules. And if a policy is not specified, find a way to design one. This is your opportunity to present. It shows the initiative and commitment that you have to the organization. And it isn't simply you coming in and asking for tuition. It's proposing a plan where you're asking for tuition and support for time so that you can contribute more to the organization. Identify those champions. Find the people within the organization that have their MBAs or are champions of higher education and find their support, get their insight, their advice as you're starting to build your case to propose to upper level leadership. Outline the benefits specifically to the organization. You know your own personal motivators, what you're hoping to get out of the program. Translate those and try to think about what the organization wants to get out of your participation in the program. How is this going to help the company? If you're able to position that and show what extra value, that value add you will bring back to the organization, that's going to set you up for the win. And the more you know the audiences, each individual person that you'll be working with that has decision-making authority over your participation, your tuition remission, the more you can anticipate their motivators and their concerns and be able to address all of those, the more you're going to set yourself up for success and have the opportunity to make the not just get into, but to be able to make the most of a program like this. Because going in, if it's simply a supervisor signing off on you joining a program, that's very different than them being bought in to you participating in a program. They will have expectations of you going into the program, and that can then likely lead you to the next level position, that role and responsibility. And finally, tie that ROI, the cost of the program, the cost of the time of you away from the office to the goals that you're going to be helping the organization achieve. The more you can do that in 1, 2, 5 ways, you can specifically make sure that the company can see the benefit and see how it can pay off in any one of those items. So we'll focus then on any one item. So I'll close with this in terms of the case. Any one thing, it only takes one thing to prove the value of the Executive MBA. It can be one innovative product or service idea that you're able to bring to the table that the organization is able to implement and then increase their goal and the success as they're moving through, whether it's sales, marketing, again, all the different goals that we just talked about. One game-changing investment. If you learn more about the finance side and you're able to find a way to implement something, it can be a game-changing investment decision that you decide to make. It can also be a game-changing investment decision you decide not to make. We had one of our alums talk specifically about the ROI of the program. He and his partners were planning on making an investment. And this is something that they had been trying to work toward for years. But after he participated in the Executive MBA program, the information and the knowledge that he gained, the skills that he gained through the program helped him realize that the investment was a bad idea. His partners weren't happy with that. But when he said no, they went back to their accountant and realized that they didn't end up earning what they were going to do. And again, none of them saw the success in terms of increasing their own salaries or the growth of the organization. What they were able to do was avoid a $2 million mistake. You may be able to gain one new client. If you are able to sign one new deal with a Fortune 500, Fortune 100, Fortune 50 client, that ends up paying for itself. So this, I'll provide a specific example from our Chicago EMBA. We had someone who was in the health insurance industry, senior executive in health insurance. They had agreements with every hospital system in Chicago except for one of the largest. And they had trouble specifically working with this organization and getting a deal. He was newer to the organization. He took specifically, I remember talking with him after this, he had a negotiations class, went to the table that month with the hospital system. They were able to negotiate a deal that they had not been able to close for several years. And so I asked him about the ROI on the program. He's like, you want to know about the ROI on the program? Read it in the Chicago Tribune tomorrow. This agreement more than paid for the program. It can be one strategic acquisition. We see organizations coming together more and more. Companies are trying to find ways to increase the size and scope of their business by finding those targeted opportunities to acquire. If you find one organization that can help supplement the product line or service line that you have and help you advance in multiple factor, that can help your company be more successful as well. So all of these things, really the one thing that's going to help as well, bottom line, you are committed to your organization. It's going to provide one more impactful, values-based strategic leader for the organization. This is the ultimate benefit because it's going to continue to pay. And I think if your organization sees that this is what you want to bring to the organization for not just the 22 months that you're in the program, but for a longer term, even if it is only the 22 months, you're still providing impact every month that you're in the program. And the longer you're with them, the more that pays dividends. So any one of those things can pay for the program, but all those things combined as you continue to go down that path, continues to drive the success of the organization. So this, hopefully keeping things on time, I want to try and open things up now for potential questions. Thanks for listening so far. Appreciate the attention. Hopefully you found some things so far in the presentation today that have given you some hooks and some tips and ideas and advice that you can use to help build the case for that conversation that ultimately you want to have with your supervisors and that next level leadership. So I'd like to open things up now for questions out of the chat bar. See if anybody has any questions that we can help answer on our side. I'm not seeing anything coming in on the chat bar so far. Thank you, Jessica. Glad to hear that this has been useful. The one thing I'll offer as well, and this is something that Tracy and Nora have done, if they have specific candidates that they're talking with that are interested in the program and are interested in having a conversation, a little bit more conversation about their employer specifically and how to develop a case, I'm certainly here as a resource and can help talk through some of these things, maybe with your organization specifically, so I can help you as you're outlining that conversation. Chris, thanks very much for that. Hopefully this has been helpful. Right. Absolutely glad to provide some insight there. And again, we'll be here. We are all here as a resource for you, in terms of counseling you on the program and what it's going to provide for you, but also helping to translate that and talk through some of those situations. Because we've talked with people that are, they may come from a small family-owned business where their leaders that are key stakeholders are maybe a board, or it's just talking with the senior leadership that happens to be a parent or an uncle, all the way through, again, Fortune 50 companies that have layers of bureaucracy in some ways to try to make sure that they navigate some of that. So we have kind of run the spectrum and talking with people about the different types of organizations and how they have these conversations. Thanks, Sarah, very much. So question, work in the federal government sector. So good question here. suggestions for persuasive techniques, and language for funding. So again, tying in some of these things to goals is one helpful piece. So we actually have someone specifically in our Chicago program right now who is working in the federal government. And that's the other thing that we as a team can provide, Tracy and Nora specifically, because they're working with the classes where they have examples of people who have navigated this. So whether or not we can help specifically, we can also connect you with students or alumni that may be specifically in those fields. I think trying to find the techniques for funding specifically on the government side, again, it's tying it to something specific. It may be efficiency that you're talking about, depending on what organization you're with, or making the connections, because we've had people come through with different federal government organizations. But so federal government organizations also tie in with private sector, right? In terms of doing business. So we've had people on the federal government side. We've also had defense contractors, for instance. And we've had people that are on both sides that may be in the same class. They're able to then have conversations about where the value is on each side and what they're looking for. So the network that you gain there as well. That's one piece that you can talk about too from the government side. Is learning on the government side, I think one of the things that our student would point out is you learn in the specific federal government way, but it's also important in whatever industry you happen to be in to have an outside perspective on how other organizations think as well, so that you can bring that back. So it may be that this person is in a federal government agency that deals with healthcare. They may have someone in their class that is a physician leader at an organization. Or that works for an insurance company that is dealing with health insurance. And so you've got some outside perspective, and you've got people that are working together and learning from each other as well. So you may be able to talk about more specifically the people that you'd be interacting with and learning from and networking with that are outside of these specific government organizations. Sometimes our students will talk about coming to an executive MBA like this, and it helps them to get out of the echo chamber that they're in their own organization or in their own industry. So this helps people get into a learning environment where people are coming from a variety of different industries and helping them to think outside of their box on how to achieve success and address concerns, be more efficient, be more successful, make decisions differently, think differently. So there are probably some other things that we could talk about, but that's one thing I would suggest is maybe connecting with one of our students or alumni that happen to be in those areas. All right, so just going back up the line here. Happy to have more private conversations. I can see that, yeah, it's so for those organizations where people don't have a degree, again, it's a tougher sell in some ways. And so it's less about talking about the credential, which again, some can downplay, because I've had people that are engineers that have come through and they say their fellow engineers are wondering why they're trying to get an MBA. Or others, again, where they don't have a degree and they see the value there. It's less about the credential, and it's more about the skills, the things that you're going to bring to the table. So it's not about the perceived difference between those that have degrees and not. It's really more about bringing more skills back in. This is how that happens. But certainly happy to have more of a conversation there. So traditional 2-year postgraduate commitment is no longer a norm. I would say that's probably true. There are differences. So some are saying that there's still a commitment, some aren't. I've had some students that I've talked with actually propose in order to be, sort of proposing in good faith that they want to stay with the organization. They'll propose that they would stay for a certain amount of time, but really set up a tuition remission plan. If they stay for a full 2 to 3 years, then there would be, that the degree would be paid for. But if they left after 1 year, they would pay back 50%, for instance, so that the company feels less threatened by someone, by the potential that someone would leave, because that would come back to them. But the average or typical level of support, we see the range. So there are some companies that during different times cut education benefits. Others kept them capped at the maximum non-taxable benefit level per year. But we're seeing more companies come back to supporting education because, again, they're looking for more retention. And so I don't know that I have an average listed in terms of the postgraduate, but that was more standard in the past. We're seeing it vary now. All right. But I will dig more into that. And we've just recently surveyed our alumni. I don't know that I have anything specific on the number of years commitment or for more of our current classes, what the requirements are. It's a great question. All right, so working for a smaller company, 100% remote, so the time away is not a major consideration. Will we be able to access the deck? I think we have this whole session recorded, so I think we can provide that for sure for any of the folks that are interested. If that would be helpful, happy to share. Thanks, Yvette. We'll see if we can get you connected there. All right. Well, thank you all for your questions and for your time this afternoon. I'm going to kick it back over to Tracy and Nora to talk a little bit more about potential next steps as you're considering the Notre Dame Executive MBA.
All right, we didn't talk about who was going to say this part, so I guess I'll just jump in here. As far as next steps, we do have a couple options for you. As I think Nick mentioned, we do have the ability to schedule one-on-one time with either Nora or myself to do a resume review or talk more in detail about your background in the program and those kinds of things. You can also obviously schedule some time with Nick if you would like to. So this link on the screen, we can maybe put a cleaner link in the chat here in a second, but that would be to schedule a time with either Nora or myself if you want to kind of help learn more about the program and your background and share those kinds of things. And then we can probably put in Nick's email in the chat as well. So if you wanted to set up some one-on-one time with Nick specifically to get a little bit more guidance kind of one-on-one that way, that would be a great way to sign up for that. We do have a variety of additional events from program overview to application Q&A to on-campus events for class visits and things like that. So we have a full event calendar that you can check out on the website to sign up for any events that would be helpful for you as you learn more and discern your next steps in the process. And if you are ready to apply, then definitely get that application started. You create a login and password so you can start the application today just to see what all the different pieces are and then add to it as you go through the process. All right. And then here's just a list of some upcoming events that I thought I would highlight. We do have a class visit coming up here in a week or two, next weekend, I think on the 18th in South Bend. The Chicago one is full, but we do still have a few seats available in South Bend. So Saturday the 18th. We also have a program overview webinar coming up later this month. And then next month, our kind of spotlight event webinar is financing your EMBA. So it kind of ties along with this, looking at beyond your employer sponsorship, what are the financing options as far as loans and other things like that. So you can definitely mark your calendar for any of those that are of interest to you. I do want to highlight our application deadlines. If you've been on any of our other webinars, you've probably seen this chart before, but we are really close to our round 3 application deadline next week on March 14th. You still have time to get your application in by then, but that is the highly recommended timeframe for submitting your application is by the round 3 deadline of March 14th. There is a round 4 deadline of May 2nd, but that puts you with finding out if you're admitted on June 2nd. And that's a quick turnaround to then be here on campus 2 months from that point. So if you have the ability to apply by next week, we would highly recommend that. And then you'll find out if you're admitted on April 28th so that you can make all the plans and do all the preparations to do that. And again, if you wanted to meet with Nora or myself prior to filling out your application for some tips and tricks and resume reviews, we are happy to do so. All right. Well, that is the end of the information for today. We do have our email address in there, emba.business@nd.edu. So if you do have additional questions for Nora or myself, that's the easiest way to connect with us. And then as a thank you for joining us today, we do want to make that application free for you. So use the application fee waiver code IrishWeb, all caps and all one word, on your application when you do go to apply, so that we can waive your application fee. Thank you all so much for attending today. I think unless anyone else has anything else to add or any other questions, that concludes our presentation.
Just want to say thank you for the time this afternoon. Thank you for your interest in Notre Dame. Thank you, Tracy and Nora, for including me here. Looking forward to helping you through the rest of the journey, where however I can as well.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.